Hello, welcome to the Courageous Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we talk about self-care that will take you from wherever you're at to a whole new way of being. It is self-care that combines both external practices, like stuff you do to your body and for your body, and internal practices, stuff you do for your soul and your spirit. It is self-care that moves the needle because it is not just vague notions, it is solid strategic ideas and action steps you can easily implement into your life. Today, I am going to share with you another bit of a rant. So a few episodes ago, I talked about, I had a different self-care rant. Something happened this past Sunday that made me want to rant again and to clear up some misconceptions about self-care, because the more I experience self-care, the more I teach about it, the more I speak about it, the more I immerse myself and my clients in it, the more I realize that there are a whole lot of misconceptions out there that are preventing people from really understanding and then implementing self-care into their or your lives. And that just won't do. I envision a world where every woman and then every man learns how to practice self-care that takes courage so that they are prioritizing their own well-being without guilt and are then able to give from a place of fullness and love and overflow. That's the kind of world I want to live in, and I'm guessing that you do too. Thank you for being here, by the way. I sincerely appreciate you showing up to listen and to do this act of self-care by listening for yourself. Now, this past Sunday, I noticed a number of marketing emails that were entitled along the lines of Self-Care Sundays. This is not okay with me, and I'll tell you why. Self-care is not reserved for Sundays. What do? Go the whole week and drain yourself and end up exhausted, and then Sunday is your day of recovery where you can't move because you took care of so many things and so many people? No, that is not okay. Self-care is not just for Sundays, and this is one of the problems, I think, with pop culture around self-care, is that it is a separate thing from how you live your life. Self-care can be integrated into who you are. There are 4 stages of this process. So initially, there's no self-care going on, and you're the kind of person who, or you know people who are those exhausted, frantic, frazzled, reactionary people who are on a roller coaster of life, and sounds exhausting just talking about it. That's the first stage. The second stage is, okay, my doctor or this magazine article or this email marketing told me to start doing some self-care, and I'll do it because I have to. I'll do it because I guess it's good for me. That's stage 2. Stage 3 is you've started implementing some of those skills, the skills they talk about that go along with courageous self-care, and you're noticing a difference. You're noticing that you have more energy. You're noticing that you're more patient. You're noticing that amazing things are starting to show up in your life. And that moves into stage 3, which is I practice courageous self-care because I want to, not because I have to, and way beyond I don't do it at all. I'm practicing it because I want to, because I'm noticing results and it's fun. I feel better. And then eventually, once you master the skill sets of courageous self-care, you get into the place where you are practicing it because it's simply who you are, and you don't have to put so much time and effort and energy into learning the skill sets and making sure that you're doing them. They become part of the fabric of your being. So you can see why that is not just for Sundays. And I think the other part of that misconception is that self-care is often marketed as luxurious acts of pampering. And that's one part of self-care, but if that's all you're relying on, then it's not going to go too well. I've tried it. It doesn't work. And by the way, pampering is just a weird word, like Pampers. Are we putting diapers all over ourselves? No. So we don't want to put self-care in its own silo and leave it for one day of the week or one day of the month or when we go on holidays. That is just not going to work. So today I thought I'd share with you 3 simple practices that you can incorporate every day and are examples of courageous self-care. So let's see here. The reason that I created I've uncovered the 12 skill sets of courageous self-care is for the very reason that once we know what self-care is, we can take steps towards implementing it in our lives. So one of the main problems with self-care is it's just this vague idea of I'll get to it someday, or I don't have time to go to the spa, or I can only go to the spa once every 6 months, or it's not my month to get a massage, or the pedicure just doesn't work for me. I don't live in an urban center where people give pedicures, and giving one to myself doesn't really feel like self-care. No, that is, like I said, just one part of self-care where you're focused on your physical body and your vitality and well-being. And that's important, super important. And that shows up in the skill sets of courageous self-care. And there's so much more to it. And it's not to overwhelm you, it's to let you know that there are just 12. It's like a 12-step program. And once you learn them and get to that level of I want to do it, and then the level of I do it because it's who I am, amazing. And in the meantime, while you're working on it, things get better and better. So it's completely worth investigating these 12 courageous self-care skill sets. I've done podcast episodes on all of these 12 foundational skill sets. I'm also writing a book, so it's easy for you to get your hands on it and go through the challenges and the action steps that it will take to get to that level of mastery. So what I want to do is give you 3 simple, straightforward self-care practices that you can implement starting today, even if it's not Sunday, especially since it's not Sunday, because we want to get into the mindset that self-care is for every day and it's for every person. It's not something that some people deserve and some people don't. It is for everyone. And people who are practicing courageous self-care are people who are refreshed and excited about life and are living on purpose and are feeling like they're making a contribution. Yes, that is what we want, right? That's certainly what I want. That's why I am working on this too. Because what I teach, I also benefit from getting to hear it come out of my mouth over and over. All right, so let's go into the action step number 1 that you can take to start practicing self-care today. This action step comes from, or this self-care tip, or this self-care strategy, or this self-care tool comes from the skill set of learning to access and trust and follow your intuition. This is a question I ask myself frequently. It makes a tremendous difference. You want to know what the question is? I bet you do. It is, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? It is an especially useful question to ask at points in the day when you're in between. And especially when you have a day where you are on the go. You're taking care of other people, you're driving people places, you are making meals, you are doing laundry, you are doing all sorts of stuff for everyone, perhaps not yourself. So when you can pause and say, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? You let the answer float up. So it's not an answer that's coming from your brain. It's an answer that's coming from your heart. A brain answer will be easy to identify because it will feel like I should. I should do this, I should do that. Oh, that's on my list. I meant to do that today. I have this and this and this to do. Those are not your intuition speaking. The intuition is going to bubble up. It will come a little bit more slowly, and it most likely won't be on your list of things to do. and it will feel like it might be impossible at that time, or it will be something that is just a whisper, and it will be so quiet that it would be very tempting to ignore it. So for example, I've asked myself this question over and over. Even I put it up on a sticky note and put it in strategic places around the house. For a while I had it on my fridge because I walked by it all the time. And when I would see it, I would pause and stop and say, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? So sometimes it will be something on my list, something that is exciting, something that makes sense emotionally to do at that time. And other times it will be like something like, I was planning on sitting in front of the computer and working, but actually the most loving thing I could do for myself right now is a bath. That sounds good. With my book. Yeah, that sounds good. And then the trick, as is always the trick with intuition, is once you get the intuitive guidance, to follow it, put it into practice. Or other times I've asked myself that question, and the most loving thing I can do for myself right now is to go for a walk, or to make a list because my brain is too full, or to, what else? Work on the next meal because the timing feels really good around that, or just had an idea. So, or it might even be within work. Like sometimes I'll have a list of things that I'm working on for courageous self-care, and I look at the list and ask, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now from this list? And it'll be the thing that excites me the most. That's how you use that question. Very useful. And see, you don't have to wait until Sunday to ask yourself that question. Some days I use it over and over. As soon as I'm complete with one thing, I ask myself that question. And sometimes, some days I don't use it at all, and some days I use it once or twice. It is a wonderful guiding principle. I encourage you to give it a try, at least for the next 3 days. Okay. Here is the next suggestion I have on how you can practice self-care every day and not wait until Sunday. This next self-care strategy comes from the skill set of getting connected. There's an epidemic of loneliness, even though we're connected superficially by technology. It's a global village for sure. And yet so many people feel so lonely. And loneliness actually is responsible for more deaths than any other, than heart disease or anything like that. Loneliness is really hard to live with. So I propose getting connected. And here is a simple strategy you can use to do that. There are so many ways you can get connected. This one is getting connected to joy, to happiness, to your purpose, to your vitality. So this question is, what can I do today that will make me happy? And it could be something that is a day-long endeavor, or it could be something that takes just a few moments. It might be, so actually I've created for myself, I have a list of happiness-inducing activities. I sat down one day and made a list of my top 10 things that make me feel happy, and I refer to that list because sometimes I forget. And sometimes I shift on the list. It's seasonal because meditating outside in the winter does not make me happy, but meditating outside in the summer definitely does. I just did that today, in fact. Was blissful in the sunshine, and the birds were chirping, and there was a duck quacking. It was great. So I encourage you to make this top 10 happiness-inducing activities list, and then do something every day from your list. So reading is on mine. I love reading. It makes me so happy. And I make sure that I do that pretty much every day. I also love writing, so I do that every day. I love moving my body. So that's something I endeavor to do at least 5 days of the week with intention in some sort of a class or a formal setting. And then the other 2 days of the week without the formality and the structure. Also, I love eating. So I make sure that I prepare meals that delight me, or get someone in my family to do that. So what is something that makes you happy? Ensuring that you do that on a regular basis. If every day seems like way too much, start with one day a week, but I challenge you not to do it on Sundays, because we want self-care every day, including Sunday. And so find something that makes you happy. You might have to go back to childhood and think about things that you loved to do when you were little, if you're totally at a loss. And if you also have forgotten what makes you happy, then guess what? You get to go out and experiment. Fun! So you can write a list of things that you think might make you happy. When I first did this, I thought going to museums would make me happy. And then I started going and I realized, yeah, not so much. It's more of a, I think this should make me happy, but once I'm there, not really. It's a once in a while thing, not a regular happiness-inducing activity. So make yourself a giant list and start testing it out. Super fun homework. So do something, ideally once a day, that makes you happy. It doesn't have to be giant. It can be as small as taking a breath with a smile on your face, if that's something that makes you happy. All right, let's move on to number 3. This one is super simple, my friends. It comes from the Courageous Self-Care skill set of taking embodied action. And this is the idea, embodied action, this skill set, is using your body to help you pursue your dreams. And this one is super simple. It involves taking a breath before reacting, or while you're reacting, or if you really didn't notice that you were reacting, after you reacted. And this means also honoring your emotions. So not going overboard and dumping your emotions on someone else. Taking that breath. And I love to do breaths, different series of breath work in different ways. Every day I do some form of breath work. I want to share one with you that's very straightforward. It takes maybe 3-4 minutes, and it helps reset your emotions. It helps bring you back into your truth, into your groundedness, into clarity, and I highly encourage doing it. So it is so why don't we do it together? I will count it out for you. It's breathing in counts of 7. So you breathe in for 7, you hold for 7, you breathe out for 7, you hold for 7. And you can do it as many times as you want. You can start with 1 set, if that's all the time you have. You can do it for 3 rounds. The way I learned it, it's 7 rounds. Sometimes I go all the way to 10, especially if I am lying in bed and having trouble falling back asleep. I use this one and it works really well. So I encourage you to breathe along with me. Well, I'm not going to be breathing because I'm going to be counting, but you get what I mean. So just blow out your breath. And then this all happens through your nose. So seal your lips and you breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And hold your breath again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do it 2 more times. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And hold again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Once more, climbing up with your inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold at the top of your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, climbing down, exhale through your nose. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and hold at the bottom. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now just check in. How do you feel? And then if you do 7 or 10, you do it for a while, you take 3 cleansing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. So let's do those together. And that is a very simple self-care strategy that you can use multiple times a day, regardless of the day of the week. So as you can see, from these 3 simple self-care tools, self-care is not just for Sundays. It is definitely something you want to incorporate into every day of the week. Quick review. Ask yourself, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? Second strategy, do something every day that makes you happy. Number 3, breathe. Before you react, in that moment where you're making a choice of how you're going to react to something, while you're reacting, if you notice that you have flown off the handle or there are a lot of thoughts circulating that aren't serving you, take a breath. Or if you have had some sort of emotional release and you need to ground yourself and cleanse, doing the 7x7 breathing. As you can see, this is great every day of the week. So I encourage you over the next week, until we meet again, I encourage you to take some embodied action to ensure that you're going to play with these ideas. Get a sticky note right now and write out, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? Stick it somewhere where you'll see it every day. I encourage you to make that happiness list, the top 10 happiness-inducing activities. And breathing. So how are you going to remember to take that breath? You might want to put a sticky note beside your bed and start your day with those 7 grounding breaths. Or you might want to do it at the end of the day, or you might want to do it at your lunch break. So choose a time and try it out for the next 3 days or the next week. That's what I actually mean. I encourage you to do it for a week. Okay. And then you don't have to leave it till Sunday. So thank you so much for listening. I am really strongly in the belief that the more we practice this self-care that does take courage because it's out of the norm, it is taking action for ourselves, there can be fear around it. The more we can move through that fear and start to incorporate these small acts of courageous self-care, the more joy we will experience individually and also collectively. I do want to invite you to access the resource I've created for you. I'm going to give you the happiness-inducing checklist creation. I don't even know what it's called. I haven't used it for a while, but the link will be in the description to this podcast, and it will help you create your own top 10 happiness-inducing activities idea. So that's what I'm going to do next. It's going to bring me great joy to make sure that that can get into your hands. So do use the link in the description for that. And I encourage you to shift your mindset from self-care as a vague idea, or that I only deserve it on Sundays, or I only get to do it on holidays, to self-care is absolutely something I can incorporate into my everyday life. And not only do the people around me benefit, I also benefit. And that way we can contribute our best selves and move forward in life. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to connecting with you again next time. Bye-bye for now.